The title of this video kind of says it all. We are sharing where we are moving to. This has been something that I have been anticipating since we left Virginia about 10 months ago, and I'm sure all of you have been anticipating it as well. We've been pretty open that we're not going back to Virginia. So we've been traveling with our horses for a little over 10 months. We've gone from the East Coast to the West Coast. We started in Virginia where we lived and where I'm from. In order to do this trip, we sold our farm, we sold a bunch of belongings, and we just set out. And one thing is, when we left Virginia, we knew that we weren't moving back there. We knew we were going somewhere else, but there's a part of us that also felt like we weren't gonna know where until we reached the West Coast. Like, that was a big part of this, because not only was this trip like, you know, to travel the country and have a goal of going coast to coast, but it was also like we knew that after this, our lives would change in terms of we'd move to a new location, you know, we want to have kids, I'd be in school and things like that. So it was just kind of the first step to the journey, and it was always in the back of my mind. So everywhere we went, I was always looking to be like, okay, would this be a place that we would like to live and settle down? Believe it or not, we went to a lot of places that I was really impressed with, and I could have seen myself living there. Just a few of the highlights. Sandusky, Ohio, we loved. It's right on the lake. I think it's Lake Erie. Lake Erie, you have Cedar Point there. Colin loves roller coasters and amusement parks. And it's just a nice little historical town. Then there's Cincinnati, Ohio. We thought Cincinnati was super cool. Just the vibes of Cincinnati. One thing I liked about that city was you could be out where it's rural and then you could get into the city pretty quickly. So that was nice. I really loved the area around Mobile, Alabama. I think it's Daphne, Alabama, which is kind of across the river from Mobile. It's just a vibe. You got the Spanish moss on the trees. The town was just very nice and clean and upkept. Very nice town. Two other highlights for me actually, there was three more highlights for me. I loved Hill Country, Texas. Of course, as soon as I got there, I was like, this is a super cool place. I loved the Hill Country. It was so unique and so different. I loved Tucson, and I like the saguaros. The cactus were just so unique, and it kind of felt like a different place, like a different planet. The only thing about Arizona is I would love to live in Arizona, but I don't think I could do the summers there. So that was kind of immediately off the bat. Third, we loved Reno, Nevada. It was just beautiful. The only thing is there was no law school there, so that took that one off the table. So we reached the West Coast about 3 weeks ago. We rode on the Oregon beaches, and it was weird because we told ourselves, like, we really liked Cincinnati. So once we went to Cincinnati, we kind of told ourselves, like, okay, if we don't really feel kind of like this calling or a pulling to go somewhere else, we will just go to Cincinnati, because we both liked it, it had what we wanted, and that was our plan. And that's been our plan, you know, ever since we went there. So for like 10 months, we've been saying, well, if nothing else changes, we'll go to Cincinnati. Like I said, I kind of had this feeling that as soon as we reached the coast, we would know where we were supposed to go. Okay, so that was like 3 weeks ago, we got to the coast. As soon as we kind of got to the coast and we started talking, for some reason, we just started talking about Boise, Idaho. You know, we haven't been to Boise, we haven't even gone through Idaho, but we had kind of researched it a little bit to see if it was a place we'd like to stop and kind of look around. And for some reason, we just kept talking about Boise, Idaho, and Idaho in general. And so we left the beach and we went into the Deschutes National Forest in Central Oregon for 3 weeks. And we just kind of like kept talking about it, kept looking. We started looking at like apartments for rent and things like that. And for some reason, it just felt right. And so we are now here in Idaho. We are actually not in Boise. We're at a horse campground. I'll be happy to share with you all that we have secured an apartment for us for a year. It's a year-long lease. We're going to look at boarding stables this week for the horses. So it looks like we are moving to Boise, Idaho. So we signed our lease on our apartment before even laying foot in Idaho. Like, we just kind of looked around, saw something in our budget, and we were like, okay, let's just do this. And a lot of you may be wondering, well, why are you just getting an apartment? You know, because we had a farm back in Virginia. Don't we want that? A few things. Land in Idaho is expensive, and my plan is to go to school in a few years, so we didn't really want to move on anything with that in the future. And the fact of the matter is, we just don't really know what we want in regards to that. Like, we want to live below our means and we want to live cheaply. After living with my horses 24/7, which I love them, they're back here right now. I think it would just be nice to have some time separated. I don't know how else to describe that. Like, when a horse is outside of your window 24/7, it takes up a certain amount of your thinking capacity, just worrying about them, making sure they have what they need and all of that. So for them to be at a boarding stable and for me to kind of have like that mental break from them for a little bit, I'll still go and see them every single day, but just like not having that burden of 24/7 care, that will be nice for me. You know, we're not rushing into anything. We're gonna get our apartment. It's in downtown. We're actually not living in Boise. We're kind of on the outskirts of Boise, but it's downtown in the little town we're in. So we can explore, we can walk around, we can do all of that. We can just enjoy life. So you may be asking, why Idaho? Like, why Idaho besides just having this feeling like we were supposed to come here? Well, there's a few different things. Number one, we wanted somewhere that had access to the outdoors, and Idaho is known for that. Everyone we would run into camping that, you know, we'd kind of talk about Idaho and they would all just have great things to say about it. You know, they would tell us all of these different things you can do: mountain biking, horseback riding, skiing, snowmobiling. They've got a lot of lakes and rivers here and just all that kind of stuff. We actually reached Idaho yesterday. So driving into Idaho and going through Boise, you see everything it has to offer, and you see the mountains, you see the lakes and the river, and it just looks so fun already. So we're very excited about that. The second thing was we felt like we were supposed to be closer to a bigger city. Like in Virginia, there was no like big cities where we were from, but for some reason we just had this feeling. And we have a marketing business, and I think part of that has to do with that, where we just wanted a larger city to where we could grow our business. So the Boise metropolitan area has, I think, about 800,000 people, which is a pretty good population for business. And the area is booming with, you know, entrepreneurship and new industry and things like that. So it just is, we felt like we wanted that for ourselves. Thirdly, with us wanting to start a family soon and have kids, we wanted to find a place that was very family friendly and kid safe. And if you look at the stats in America, like Idaho it has very high rankings for that. And so that was another big plus for us. Honestly, none of those really mattered. If we hadn't had that gut instinct, we probably wouldn't have come here. And we don't know what's going to happen. Like maybe a year from now, we go somewhere else. We don't know. But we're just doing what we feel like God wants us to do. So let me shed some light on how we've been living for the last 10 months. We have not had electricity. We haven't had running water. We've mostly lived primitively. We shower about once every week or once every 2 weeks. And so we are very excited to be in an apartment. And if you can hear the dirt bikes behind me, we're near like a OHV area. So I think they're driving out there. But our trailer is probably like a little over 100 square feet living space total. So our apartment we have gotten is 800 square feet. So I feel like we're gonna feel like we're living in a mansion. You know, we're gonna have a bathtub and a shower access like 24/7. And so it's gonna be crazy, because when you go from living like out in the wild to suddenly living back in civilization, I feel like there's definitely going to be an adjustment period. We're gonna be very purposeful about getting outdoors, because that's been such a big part of our lives. I feel like it could easily get depressing if we're not doing that anymore. And another super neat thing about Idaho is when we traveled from the East Coast to the West Coast, we kind of went up north into New York and then back down and across Southern America and then back up. So we missed like the entire Northern America. But with Idaho, you're touching Nevada, Oregon, Washington, Utah, Wyoming, and Montana. So we are pretty close to quite a few different states that we haven't explored yet, and that's another thing I'm really excited for. Right now, we're gonna get the horses to a boarding stable, and then we're gonna sell our truck and our trailer, just because at this point, we don't need a trailer with living quarters anymore. Carl and I have both talked, like if you plan on doing this full time and traveling with horses full time, having living quarters is nice, but we have seen some other setups we like. Like we like the campers that go in the back of the truck and then you just pull like a 2-horse bumper pull behind you, or even just getting like a smaller gooseneck trailer, because if we're just camping on the weekends now, Colin and I could totally just live in a small gooseneck. we don't need living quarters. So we're gonna sell our trailer. We got a few things to probably do to it, and then sell it. And then there's no point in having a 350 one-ton dually truck if you're not pulling something this big. So we will probably sell our truck, and then we'll eventually get something smaller so we can continue to explore. But for now, that's the plan. A lot of the boarding stables around here are right near BLM land, so the great news is you can just ride out forever. I'm excited about that. For those of you wondering, because I have heard a few people saying this, we are not retiring Equine Helper or doing anything like that. I will continue to post videos. I'm excited because we're entering into this new phase of life, you know, new place, which we're going to be exploring. And so I think what I'm going to focus on like this coming year is trick training. I think Ruach will do great at that. And I've kind of had this realization, I think Ruach is maybe just a little too immature mentally right now for a whole lot of riding. He does great being ridden, but he just seems so much still like a baby mentally. So I want to let him grow up a bit. I think he would love trick training, so I'm going to start doing that with him. He learns super fast, so I think he could just like pump out tricks. Tucker likes trick training too. The thing is, he's just really cautious, so I think that'll be a good avenue for them. And I want to share that journey with you all. If you have any tricks you'd like to see, you know, comment down below so I can get working on that. We are adding more products on our Etsy store every day. We have the phone cases now, and we have Comfort Colors t-shirts, which are kind of a more trendy design of a shirt. So the link is in the description to our Etsy store. Be sure to check that out. It's a great way to support our channel. But thank you all so much for sticking around on this crazy journey, and I'm excited to share the next chapter of our lives with you.